Now, from the studios of Into Tomorrow in Miami, this is ITTV.
Our next guest joining us from New Zealand has developed the world's first AI system so you know you're sick before you know you're sick. That's pretty cool. The founder of Elarm Health is Paul O'Connor. Paul, welcome Into Tomorrow. Thanks for coming on. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Dave. We're all good down here in New Zealand. We have we're still dealing with coronavirus, obviously, but we've got the number of cases, community cases, down to zero. So
Wow.
That's amazing.
Well, kudos to you guys. I wish we could say the same here in Miami or the States in general, but we're doing better. And having survived the month in the hospital with the Rona, I'm always encouraged when I hear people anywhere around the world that are doing better. And especially if you're down to zero cases from a community standpoint, boy, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Now, it's summertime there, right, in New Zealand?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. So it's a little bit different to the rest of the US, obviously, in winter, but we're enjoying our summer.
Very good, which is not typically the flu season. Of course, now, as we've learned, COVID doesn't care what season it is. It's just doing its thing. But part of what you are doing is rather unique, I think. Tell me a little bit about Elarm first, and then let's get into what you're doing specifically.
Sure thing. So, look, as a little bit of a background, when COVID-19 was starting to take hold, we've got a analytics business called DataMine, 65 staff. We looked at what we had and went, what can we do in this space? And we do a lot of AI. We've got a health vault where we've worked with some of our corporate customers to store DNA, and we'd worked with wearables before. So, smartwatches, tracking people's health and enabling them to own their own information. We went, right, let's see if this is doable so that we can use that information that's coming off of the smartwatches to be able to build a model to detect early whether somebody has COVID-19 or not. We did a lot of research in this space, so looked at papers, and there's now a number of other papers from the likes of Stanford and the Scripps Institute that indicated that this might be possible.
So is it only for COVID-19 at this point, what you've developed, or is it for determining any other illness that you might be able to gather info, as you mentioned, from smartwatches, because they can tell us a lot, but generally our heartbeat and steps and that sort of thing. So how do you then take that information and help us know before we may even be sick?
Sure, there's multiple things in that. One, I've got an Apple Watch on and also an Oura Ring on at the moment. We take that information and then we create a number of derived variables from that. The system at this stage is tuned solely for COVID-19. It is the biggest problem in the world.
Sure.
In the US, we've got 4,500 people dying every day.
Good point. So anything that anyone can do to help slow the spread and eliminate some of these deaths would certainly be beneficial. So tell us how Elarm works.
Sure thing. So it takes that information. We derive a whole lot of variables from that. So the likes of sleep recovery, exercise recovery. So if you go for a 20-minute walk, how long does it take your heart to recover? We identified early on with clinicians to begin with, what are those features that we'll be able to detect that will show that COVID-19 is starting to affect viral load on your body. We've now built AI models off of actual cases that we've seen. So we are focused solely on COVID-19. We do pick up other viral loads, the likes of the flu. And a lot of clinicians are talking to us now about identifying or using smartwatches to identify other illnesses.
That's terrific, because so much has come out of the research for not only the vaccines, but what's effective and what works. I mean, when I was in the hospital, they were throwing everything at me, and I think they're still doing that to some degree with a lot of people. But we've learned a lot, and you talk about clinicians and, of course, doctors, healthcare professionals in general. finding out that, okay, well, this hasn't worked so much, this is working better, and to get more information. That seems to be the key. It's all about data and then overall what the data can tell us. So I think what you guys are doing is terrific. And while it's helping for COVID-19 now, I'm imagining it's opening the door for all kinds of things into tomorrow, if you will.
That's right. So in the future, it'll be less about, if you go to your Fitbit device or your Apple Watch device or Samsung, it shows graphs, it shows trends, etc. But that's too much information for people to be able to digest. Yeah. So this is really that next step of being able to take all of that information, build personal normal baselines, and then go, when are we starting to move outside those baselines? We get also people to tag, if I eat too much today or I have a couple of beers, that's going to affect my baseline. So we tag various information around that. We've obviously got exercise from the smartwatches as well.
Sure. And I think that's good too, that you're adding, okay, I had a couple of beers, it's not the end of the world, but make a note of it, because we then will see how or if it affected you.
Yep, and it does. Look, I noticed that some of my indicators, my resting heart rate, if I have a couple of beers, will go up 5 to 10 beats over the next day. It is quite dramatic.
I guess your body is saying, thanks so much. I needed that in a sense, but not in a good way. So it is important to know if there is something out of the ordinary that you are able to make a note of it then. How effective has it been so far? If we've got the smartwatch, we've got the Fitbit.
When we build the first models, that was what's called the Delphi modeling technique. It was around about 60% effective at being able to detect COVID-19 2 to 3 days early. Mm-hmm. We're now over 80% accuracy of being able to detect that early. And back, as you were saying, there isn't going to be a silver bullet for eliminating COVID. And it is multiple effective tools that we've got to use, masks, the vaccine. We've now got, the Brazilian variant that is starting to resist vaccines. Yeah. So this is going to be a complex and ongoing worldwide problem to try to reduce the number of infections of COVID-19 around the world. Some people don't want to take the vaccine. There will need to be other mechanisms in place so that those people and their communities and families are protected.
How soon can your Elarm system suggest that the user might be suffering an infection? Would we get an idea,
Sure.
A little heads up?
So if somebody has had their wearable on for a week, or they've already got one, then it can start to detect straight away. So it builds those baselines off of the information that it's got. If somebody goes out and buys a new wearable device, it takes 2 or 3 days to build up that baseline, and after a week it is 100% able to take that baseline and then compare it to any changes, Good. Physiological, biological changes within your body.
So if we've already got a Fitbit or a smartwatch, something to gather the basic info, we just then need the Elarm app on our smartphone Correct. In order to make this all work, right?
Yep, you go to the Apple Store or your Google Play Store or elarm.health website, and that guides you through connecting your wearable device to the Elarm system, and then every 4 hours it compares your current information to your baseline, runs the models, and then if you're starting to see elevated symptoms, then it'll give you a bit of an alert and say, hey, this isn't quite right. It then recommends CDC guidelines in terms of what to do.
Terrific. And of course, we're showing you a lot of these activities as well on the video that you can find at intotomorrow.com, where we interview with Paul. And if you're listening on the radio, have no fear. Just visit intotomorrow.com and check out the video for Elarm. What's next then for you guys? I'm sure you're already planning what's going to happen once we hopefully get back to whatever normal is and get past this COVID-19 nonsense. What are your plans into tomorrow?
Well, in the future, it really is about being able to use the Internet of Things, smartwatches, for people to be able to own their own information and be able to run models across that enable them to see where there's some changes in their body, work out what to do next. So whether that's an illness or not not quite eating right, so personal, dietary plans or exercise plans off of that to go, where can I improve my health?
Terrific. Well, keep up the good work. It's no doubt helping a lot of people. These are available now, right? The app
Correct.
is available, and
it's live right now. People can go and test it out on the App Store. Search for Elarm or elarm.health and get into it.
Terrific. Well, Paul, we thank you very much for joining us, for spending a few minutes with us. Paul is the founder of Elarm Health, and elarm.health is the domain, and we'll get you there too when you visit us at intotomorrow.com. Thanks so much for joining us, and keep us informed as you develop more and more and dig deeper and deeper into helping us, all of us, with our health.
Will do. Thanks a lot, Dave.
It's our
Take
pleasure,
care.
Paul. Certainly. Elarm.health. Very easy to get to. And again, we'll get you there too when you visit us at intotomorrow.com. I'm Dave Graveline, bringing you further into tomorrow right here on the Advanced Media Network. Don't go away.